Flipping it up and out. Bogut! A recent block by Bogut.
Good recovery by Andrew Bogut.
Let's get Rogue.
Had a lot of people reach out to me, and you'd be good to talk about this, as am I. I've been on both sides of this, but there's a lot of, I don't know what it's like in the US, but there's a lot of kind of trainers, development coaches, just random names that pop up. US is probably bad as it is. In Australia, it's becoming more and more now. I think a lot of parents have reached out and said, look, what do you look for in a, my son's 14, I want to get into individual sessions, or my daughter's, 13. What do I look for? And so I decided to do a bit of wrote some things down, what I would look for. First of all, it's the new craze. So everyone wants a personal trainer in not just basketball, but soccer and whatever sport you're playing, tennis. It's all about getting your kids, and that's great. That you definitely want to do that, because your club stuff's not enough. At least in Australia, 2 club sessions a week plus your game is not enough if they want to better their skills. Hopefully they're already working on their own game is number one, but they definitely need some tutelage. So I don't know what pricing is like in the US Pro, but over here generally, you're getting about $50 to $100 per hour per kid. And that's depending on group sizes. So if you've got a group of 10, you're obviously not paying, you're probably paying 50 or below. If it's more of an intimate group of 2 or 3, then you pay the 100. So for parents out there, that's probably your range, $50 to $100 per hour. Smaller the group, you probably pay closer to the 100. Larger the group, you might even get below 50. Right? I've seen some of these fucking trainers, man, they've got 40 kids. Oh no, they've got 40 kids on 4 courts, and they're charging, each one $30, $40, but don't even waste your time. Like, you're not going to get any instruction one-on-one when there's 20, 30, 40 kids there, right? Unless there's 20 coaches, but then every coach is going to have a different message for you for the most part. If you're looking for a personal trainer, you want someone that's in an intimate setting. My three red flags, first off, for parents. If you're looking for a personal trainer for your child, number one, if they promise anything, huge red flag. So what I mean by this is, train with me and your son will make the NBA. Train with me and your son will make the NBL. If you hear that, red flag. I don't want to hear that from a trainer. Or you want to hear, I'll make your son or daughter work. I'll get them better. I'm going to get their deficiencies better, and I'm going to continue to hone the current skills they have. You never promise that you're going to get someone to somewhere, because a lot of it relies on the kid. A lot of it relies on their club and the time and their love for the game. A trainer's not going to you could get the best trainer in the world, Andrew Bogut, Mike Procopio, whoever, one of the best Instagram trainers. If your child doesn't want to work, they're not going to get there. So don't ever believe that if someone says, I'm going to get your kid there, they're going to make it. That's number one. Number two, are they recording your workout whilst working you out to post it on social media? Now, look, I'm okay with a one-off, a photo, or if someone else is recording a little clip, kind of ballpark to me, but I get it. But if they're actually recording you while you're doing drills, red flag. You are the product at that point. Your child is the product. So they're using you to leverage their brand, which I think is not right. I think as a parent, you're paying big money per hour to have someone train your child. The best you need from them is, I don't want any distractions. I don't want you holding a phone. I don't want this. I don't, train my child and get them better. So that's the second red flag, if you see any of that. Number 3 is they name drop about contacts they have all around the world. That's number 3. Big red flag. I've got this person here in college. You can look, if you train with me for 2 years, I can get you here for the NBL. I know this person. I know that person. Good people generally in life and good trainers, they don't do that. They're comfortable. They have it in their pocket, but they're not going to tell you they have it in their pocket until a time of need, and they might help you. So they're my kind of real big 3 red flags. Of those 3 kind of tell you the feel of what someone is. But it's hard for parents, because parents get swindled. Parents get, emotional when it comes to their kids. I've seen it so many times. That's not the parent's fault. It might be a coach that comes from America, and it's like, there was always a stigma pro in the 80s and 90s and at least the 2000s in Australia, that anyone with an American accent, you were like, oh my God, it's an American coach. They're God, right? And sure, there were some coaches that came out here that were fantastic, but then there were a lot of people that used that and, were charging parents crazy money to get their kids nowhere, promising them the world, and they just disappear with the money, right? So the biggest thing I think for kids, for parents to look for with an individual coach is Number one, identify weaknesses of your son or daughter. So, okay, their left hand's really bad. We need to address that. Okay, footwork is bad, traveling a lot, follow through is not there every time, the guide hand, blah, blah, blah. All these things, identify weaknesses and address them, along with continuing to develop skills they already have and getting them from maybe a B+ to an A+. They're the most important things. So a one-size-fits-all generic sessions don't bother with those parents, in my opinion. If you're investing this kind of money, you should be you can go up to about 10 max, in my opinion, but you still want to have individual sessions within those 10. So if you've got 10 kids in a 2-hour session or an hour and a half session, I don't want them all doing the same thing, because you might have one person doing something that they're already good at and another person's not. And then that kid that's already good at that is kind of like, well, I can already do this really well. I want to learn more, get me better, and vice versa. So the one-size-fits-all generic sessions are also something to look out for, Pro. I don't know if you have much more to add, but it's rampant here, Pro. It's getting bigger and bigger. And there's big money involved in it, because generally some of these coaches, they don't need their own facility. They just go and rent a court they pay the facility, $20, $30, $50 an hour. They already have a relationship with them. They get 5 to 10 kids that are paying them $50 to $100 an hour. Do the math. They do 2 of those sessions a day, even 1 a day, 5 days a week. They're making a good living. And, you just want to make sure that your kids are getting what they pay for.
First of all, if I'm a parent,
what else you got on that front, Pro?
9 times out of 10, you have no idea what you're doing. Like you're just a parent, right? Just like most parents, they see it, they watch it, but they don't really know. First of all, I would never have a trainer work with my son or daughter that hasn't coached before. So like if they haven't coached high school, they haven't coached club ball, they haven't spent any time as a real coach, I'm not doing it. Now, if my son or daughter is not very experienced in basketball and I want somebody who's just going to, young, work hard, like played the game before, that's great. But if I'm really a parent that's going to invest money into this thing, I'm not working with a trainer that has not coached before. That's the first thing. Second thing, if they do carry a camera by themselves and they're filming you while they're working out, huge red flag. Like, because they need to be studying you, not just putting stuff on. Like, the social media thing, I'm not a huge fan of. But, like, if they have, like, 4 or 5 cameramen filming the workouts, whatever, that's another thing. But the coach, the actual trainer that, like, just films the player working out to put on social media right there, red flag to me. If they don't talk to your son or daughter during the workout, and like they're not correcting, they're not stopping a drill at all, and they're just like continuously going, your son or daughter is not going to get better. Like, you pay a trainer to not only assess your game, put your son or daughter through a workout sessions that's going to get, close the gap on their skill set, and also close the gap on their weaknesses and improve things and get better at some things. But like, you need to correct. That's what coaches do. They actually correct and talk. A lot of these trainers just move to the next drill. Huge red flag would be if they just continuously do different things every session. You're never, ever, I've been doing this for 30 years. And the reason why I'm so good is because I could take a player and do basically almost the same thing every day to work on those 2 or 3 weaknesses that they really need to work on top of the stuff that they already do well, but really key in on 2 or 3 weaknesses and, rep it out, correct it, and just keep on repping it and repping it and repping it. That's the only way they're going to get good. Trainers, which they're like crack dealers, for God's sakes, they just sell dreams that you're never going to attain. They just keep doing the drill of the year. The move of the year. You'll do it in a workout, and then the next day it'll be a different move of the year. Like, wait a minute, I thought we were doing the move of the year yesterday. No, we're doing a new one today, and then the next day is a new one, and the next day. How do you expect to get good at something? Like, Kobe would do things thousands of times. Like, I always tell the story about, breaking down film for him the last time I worked out with him, and him doing like an in and out crossover step back like 11 or 12 times in like a 3 or 4 game period. So like, I was watching film of it in the plane. I'm like, all right, I don't like this shit, but like during the last part of our workout, we'll do it. I said, all right, KB, let's do last 5 minutes work on an in and out crossover step back. He goes, Mike, I never do that. I never work on that. I go, KB, you did it like 11 times in like 3 games. He goes, yeah, I get it. But what happens is I work on the in and out layup, in and out jump shot, crossover layup, crossover jump shot, step back, jumper, step back, pull in front layup. I master all three of those moves. The game's reactionary. So if I don't master each one of those things and read the defense of how they react, because if I in and out somebody and they don't bite, they don't bite on it, I'm just going to go to the rim. They bite on it. That's why I cross over. They get to my hip. That's why I step back and I shoot the jump shot. It's all reactionary, but I have to work on each step thousands of times before I'm very good at it. So with your son and daughter, like whatever they're working on, if they need their corner three, they need to work on their left hand, they need to work on their ball handling, whatever it is, they need to be repping that out daily on almost every session. And that's a big thing for me. Those are some of the big things for me. And look, you get what you pay for. If you're gonna walk into a session with 50 kids in it, just expect this. Expect, okay, maybe my son or daughter will play a lot. They'll get some reps in, but they're not going to get a lot of instruction. So, I'm not going to pay that much for it. Like if I have anything over 10 kids in a session, I'm not paying more than $30 for it. If I have a session of like less than 10, like I think 6, like I usually charge 85 a kid for 6. 6 kids, 85 per kid. Because of the fact that you get a lot of reps in, I could teach, I could stop and correct. Also, I could teach, stop, and correct, and I could play 3-on-3 live, 2-on-2 live, and then they can get a lot of good things out of it. So I'm gonna charge more. But since like that's the expectation, if you're expecting your son or daughter to get really good teaching with 50 kids in the gym, then you're crazy. But if there's like 4 to 6 kids in the gym and I'm paying a premium, then I better expect that coach to be stopping, correcting, talking, and teaching. This game's at an all-time low. It's way overcoached, way undertaught. There's no teachers anymore. It's like breakdancing. It's like breakdancing in the 80s. You just work on breakdancing moves, and then you work on another breakdancing move the next day, and another breakdancing move the other day. And there's no teaching involved. You're just emulating and copying moves, but there's no actual teaching involved. And I think that that's a big thing. And that's why, it's a shame. It's the game's going to shit, and there's a reason for it.
Yeah, it's with everything, with every industry where there's money to be made, you're going to have people that grift and, that, like Pro said, shouldn't even be coaching, period, because they've never coached before and they kind of work their way, weasel their way into things. And that's every walk of life, not just basketball. But the other thing I'd look for is, the first couple of weeks of anything, there's a honeymoon period where everything's great, everything's rosy. It would be, I've seen a lot of these trainers, they have the energy the first couple of weeks and it's a brand new business or it's a brand new group. And then by week 3, week 4, they're showing up, making this up. It's a 10 a.m. session. They're showing up at 9:59. All right, guys, just get your stretch in. You want to make sure that they have to be more motivated than your child. If they're rolling out of their car after a little nap, or you can clearly see they don't want to be there, or they're tired, that's immediately something as a parent you address. I'm paying you a premium. I need your energy like it was the first week. And I see that so much, man. I see that so much. And then parents, of course, they see a little bit of an improvement, so they stay with that coach or that person. But then the next jump of the improvement doesn't come because it's just the same old. And to Pro's point about mastering the simple stuff, I see that all the time too. I see kids trying to do 15 crossover moves before they get to the basket, or let's do this because these people that are training them, sure. And this isn't all trainers. There's a lot of good people out there that do it for the right reasons and don't even charge money for the most part. But there's a lot of people that don't. And when you're going into the individual realm, you have to pay a premium. That's just the way life works. I just see a lot of kids just get stuck in that whole. A lot of kids trainers get stuck in I'm going to go on Instagram and look at who's Steph Curry's trainer, and I'm going to copy those drills. You're like, well, you haven't seen what Steph did from 9, 10, 11, 12 to Davidson College for a couple of years to the NBA to get to that point at 33, 34. You can't then have a 14-year-old do what Steph's doing because you think that's going to turn him to Steph Curry. And that's what I'm seeing a lot. I'm seeing kids practicing shit that they're never going to do in a game, shit that is just they haven't mastered. I did some stuff yesterday locally here with some kids, and this is a knock on anyone, and I've done a bunch of camps. It's simple stuff like my biggest thing with a lot of young kids is just teaching a basic closeout, right? Like get your stick arm up early, close out no middle, Why do we force to the baseline? Kids don't know the answer to that. And I'm not blaming the kids. It's just things that have got lost in translation over time because we want to jump to, oh, I want to do a step back, or I want to block someone's shot off the glass or throw it into the crowd. It's like, well, you got to master a proper closeout first. And then on the flip side, you know, if you're on offense and someone's trying to stop you from going middle, then you learn offense. Okay, now what do I do here? How do I kind of fool him into baiting him like I can open up the middle a little bit, and just teaching small things like that. So I think probably it's not really a red flag, but the more flashy a trainer is with all these kind of different moves and apparatus is the other thing, pro, like 50 different things. Like I got this cone for this, and I've got this touchpad, and I've got this. Look, for pros, different story. Like someone like Steph, he needs to be stimulated with things that he hasn't done before, as you know, to keep motivated for workouts. So they've got him doing all kinds of stuff, and that's how they get better, right? Because basic ball handling drill for them, and don't get me wrong, for their warm up drill, they'll still be doing the basic stuff. But in the meat of their workout, they'll be doing some stuff that's really kind of wacky and out there at times. But they've mastered simple, like Pro said. For your kids to be doing that and jump into that extent, you're just going to get lost in translation. So I just want to have a discussion on it, Pro, because I've had more than a few people in person ask me, and some people have emailed through and on social media saying, like, man, like I'm lost. What do I do? I've got personal trainers coming up to me saying I can train your son or your daughter. I can help them. What do I look for? These are some of the qualities you got to look for, and you know, I think we'll do a few more things like this over the course of the year. But it's hard, and like Pro said, if you're not in the game, you know, it's like me being a parent. If I went now into, you know, my son wanted to ride dirt bikes, and I went to a local MX course, and I'm like, I'd have no idea what's what. Like if some guy came up to me and said, hey, I can get your son riding that bike better, I'd be like, okay, cool. How much do you want? Here it is. Like I have no idea. And that's Pro's point. Like parents, they're parenting and they want the best for their kids. So a lot of times as a parent, you can get blinded by some of these people that are charging you, you know, $100 an hour and there's no improvement, or they lie, or then 3 or 4 years later, they don't have the contacts they said they did, and then things go astray, and then they disappear and they move to another city or another state and they start all over again. I've seen that numerous times as well. So it's interesting. It's an interesting industry, Pro. It's definitely it's up there with the Instagram models, quote unquote.
People making
I think
7 figures, a lot of 6-figure people, you know, and they just work on nonsense. And what happens is they work on stuff that these kids are never going to do in a game. Their coach is going to get pissed and they're going to get on the bench. And then by the time they spend 5 figures on this over a course of a 4-year period, you know, 5-year period with their sons or daughters, they might pay $30,000 to these people over a course of time. And then when their careers toast because they've been working on the wrong thing for years, then these people are going to go to the next town. It's like, you know, it's like these Western movies. You have these people like these snake oil salesmen that are going to sell this elixir. It's going to make you feel great. Well, they'll sell it to the people until like 3 or 4 days, and then they'll figure out that things bullshit. They'll just move to the next town. That's what these people do. They move to the next town, and it's bullshit. And that's the problem. But people just don't understand. Look, it's very simple. Like whoever's in charge of your son or daughter's minutes, they're the warden of the jail. You got to figure out what they want your son or daughter to be able to do to get on the floor to a maximum amount of time. You work on those things, you figure it out, and then that's it. And then you watch film of your son or daughter. What are the shots that they taken during the year, during the season for their team? And then see, well, this guy had me dribbling 46 times before I shot. Well, did little Johnny or Sally do that during the season ever? Like, why would I be working on that? Like, and that's the problem. You work 98% of the time on things you'll do 2% of the time. You'll never get better. How the fuck does that make any sense? So you just got to figure out what you need to work on to get you to like at least try to do what you're trying to do. Like what are my goals and how am I going to get there? And then have a plan of how we're going to get there, the things that I need to get better at, you know, to really get better and to improve and get on the court. But these charlatans and these fucking thieves just keep on like, and again, who are you going to listen to? You're going to listen to the person who said, we're going to grind out, you know, 2 or 3 weaknesses, or you're going to listen to the person who says your coach has no idea what they're fucking doing. You're Steph Curry. and you should be playing like Steph Curry. You shouldn't be playing like, you shouldn't be playing like Dorian Finney-Smith or Herter or something like that. You need to be playing like Steph, James Harden, and things, and people like that, or LeBron. And, of course you're going to listen to that person because you're going to think, well, they've got all these followers on Instagram. They work with all these players. And that's another thing. Give them, like, I'd go to that trainer and say, well, I want a client list of 5 people that I can call and I can talk to them about what, especially at my son or daughter's position and what makes you so good. And I want to figure out if you're the right person. Like, I would really try to do my homework the best I can, but look, there's a lot of good people in this too, but there's a lot of thieves doing it for the wrong reasons. And again, by the time you figure it out, they're going to already have your money, going to the next kid, to the next family. So that's sort of my thought on it.
Yeah, interesting. So be vigilant. There's a lot of questions you can ask. I think references is spot on. What kids have you trained? Have you trained any pros or semi-pros that are playing NBL, NBL1 or NBA or G League or college? Have you sent kids to college? How long have you been doing this? Where have you coached? And definitely some references, I think, just calling people, whether it be other parents of kids that they have coached or even just other kids that have now, if a guy's been doing it, a guy or girl's been doing it for 10, 15 years, they'll have kids now that have morphed into adults, which should give you a bit of truth. When they're 19, 20, 21, whatever, they can say, yeah, he was good. Yeah, she was bad, whatever. And I think, just be smart about it. Ask a lot of questions. A lot of times, there is a lot of good and bad in every industry, and you see some people make a living out of this because it's a pretty lucrative business if you can do it right.
Sure.
But you can also do it pretty wrong and still make good money because don't forget, a lot of these trainers don't have a facility to pay for. They don't have, half of them aren't paying. This is the other thing. Make sure they have insurance, parents. Make sure they have some sort of insurance because if they train your son or daughter and they do something, they're training them, they had a little injury and they push them too hard and they get stress fractures or break their leg or, you want to make sure that they've got insurance to cover that. Not only that, if something happens in the gym between players or whatever, I've seen a lot without insurance and then they just disappear when shit hits the fan. But yeah, it's more just about making sure you got someone trustworthy and you're not just getting someone because they told you they could get your son or daughter to the next step. Make sure that they actually live by that. So, and it's paying attention as a parent, as hard as it can be. Go to some of this. You don't have to go to every session. I think once you're comfortable enough, but that takes weeks, if not months. Don't just go to these sessions and sit on your phone. Actually watch and see how they're interacting with your child and that they're motivated because you're paying your hard-earned money to have your child get better. So just a matter of keeping an eye on it. But thanks for that, Pro. I think it'd be very useful for a lot of our followers I know a lot of them have young kids that are coming through the junior ranks and some of them have really, really good kids that could potentially be elite. Their heads are spinning with the next step. So hopefully this helps. And if you have any more gripes or questions around trainers or want things answered, just either tweet us or chuck a comment on one of our posts on the Rogue Bogues pages and we'll try to endeavour to get back to the interesting stuff, Pro.
Bogues, we'll see you guys next week.
Let's get Rogue.